So what exactly does selling dried fish have to do with that smartphone you're probably looking at right now? Well, let's kick off this explainer by asking how a tiny, local grocery exporter from 1938 somehow managed to become the absolute technological titan powering the modern world. Honestly, it is one of the most fascinating corporate pivots in modern history. Welcome to our chronological journey through Samsung's staggering evolution. Today, we're going to explore the whole story of this company. A really wild ride, framed by incredible risks, devastating crises, and triumphant reinventions.
Here is our roadmap for today. 1. From noodles to electronics. 2. The semiconductor gamble. 3. The quality revolution. 4. The smartphone era. And finally, 5. The AI-driven future. Let's dive right in.
Part 1. From noodles to electronics, spanning 1938 to 1969. Let's go back to the very beginning.
We start in 1938 in Daegu, South Korea. A young entrepreneur named Byung-chul launched a small trading company. He named it Samsung, which actually translates to 3 stars in Korean, a name he chose because he wanted the company to be great, strong, and eternal. But their first products absolutely weren't microchips. They were exporting dried fish, local produce, and noodles to China. He started with a mere $2,000 in capital and just 40 employees. To put that crazy contrast into perspective, that original team represents just 0.0001% of the 270,000 employees Samsung now has globally. It's a scale of growth that is almost hard to wrap your head around. But you know, their path was anything but easy. When the Korean War broke out in 1950, Lee was forced to abandon his operations in Seoul, losing almost everything to looting. But he didn't give up. He weathered the devastation, actually rebuilding with savings contributed by one of his managers. He rapidly expanded into new sectors, building a sugar refinery in 1953, then branching into textiles, insurance, and retail. Finally, recognizing where the future was headed, Samsung Electric Industries was established in 1969, starting out with simple black and white TVs.
Now, to understand how they pulled off this rapid diversification, you really need to understand the concept of a chaebol. Operating as a chaebol is exactly what allowed Samsung to juggle food processing, shipbuilding, insurance, and electronics, all at the exact same time. It's a uniquely South Korean business structure that provides this massive, diversified foundation, basically allowing the company to weather economic storms in one sector while aggressively investing in another.
Moving right along to Section 2, the semiconductor gamble, covering the 70s and 80s.
Going into the 70s, Samsung shifted from making cheap consumer appliances to placing a massive bet-the-company wager on the future, high-tech semiconductor components, and the personal stakes involved here were incredibly high. In 1974, the founder's son, Lee Kun-hee, actually used his own personal funds to acquire a 50% stake in a financially troubled company called Korea Semiconductor. This incredibly bold financial risk was the critical turning point that planted Samsung's flag in the semiconductor space. He saw that high-tech electronics were the future, and he literally put his own money on the line to prove it.
Because South Korea lacked the deep technological expertise at the time, Samsung cleverly partnered up with foreign firms like Micron and Sharp to acquire proprietary tech. And wow, did they learn fast. By 1983, they had developed their very own 64K DRAM chips. In an astonishingly short time frame, by 1992, they had surpassed the global giants to become the absolute #1 memory chip maker in the world.
Which brings us to Section 3, the quality revolution in 1993. Here is where the story takes a super dramatic turn. Despite their massive growth, by 1993, Samsung's consumer electronics had a really serious problem, a nasty reputation for being cheap and low quality. This was severely holding them back in Western markets. Lee Kun-hee, who is now chairman, was on a flight to Germany reading a brutally honest design report from a Japanese consultant. When executives tried to defend their quantity-first approach, Lee grew so furious he famously threw down his spoon, an event forever known in the company as the spoon incident. He immediately grounded his executives, summoned hundreds of them to Frankfurt, and delivered his iconic Frankfurt Declaration. His mandate was simple but intense: change everything except your wife and children.
And to prove he was dead serious about this quality revolution, Lee did something completely unthinkable. When a batch of new mobile phones proved defective shortly after, he ordered the entire inventory, a staggering 150,000 mobile phones, to be piled up in the factory courtyard and literally set on fire in front of his 2,000 employees. It was quite literally a cultural revolution by fire.
That bonfire triggered a fundamental shift in their operational DNA.
Pre-1993, Samsung's factories chased shipment volumes at all costs. But post-1993, under this new management initiative, the quality control department was given absolute veto power. I mean, they could halt an entire production line immediately if something wasn't absolutely perfect. This shift was supported by a brand new unified global branding system, including the introduction of their classic blue oval logo that we all know today, and massive, massive investments in premium design.
Section 4, the smartphone era, spanning the 2000s and 2010s. That painful, fiery reinvention perfectly positioned Samsung for the next massive wave in technology, the digital revolution and the explosive birth of the smartphone market. Their rise during this era was just incredible. In 2009, they launched the first Galaxy S, entering the Android ecosystem to go toe-to-toe with Apple. By 2012, they did the unthinkable and overtook Nokia to become the world's largest smartphone manufacturer. Now, they weren't without their setbacks, of course. The 2016 Galaxy Note 7 battery fire crisis was a massive blow. But their response, swift recalls, and incredibly transparent safety investments showed their deep resilience. By 2019, they were back to pioneering entirely new categories, releasing the very first foldable smartphones.
All of this proves how that 1993 new management philosophy resulted in total market dominance. They didn't just become a participant in the smartphone wars, they secured the #1 spot globally. By vertically integrating their own world-class semiconductors and displays right into their devices, they gave themselves an edge that very few rivals could ever hope to match.
And finally, Section 5, the AI-driven future, looking ahead from 2020 to 2030.
Having basically conquered chips and smartphones, Samsung has now announced an ultra-aggressive strategy to completely re-engineer their global manufacturing operations by 2030. And we're not just talking about basic automation here. They are building fully autonomous factories. They plan to use what's called agentic AI, which is AI that can independently plan and execute tasks without a human prompting it. They're deploying digital twins to simulate real-world production virtually in real time, alongside a massive fleet of specialized robots to handle facility management, logistics, and even environmental safety in areas where human access might be hazardous.
To maintain its world-class manufacturing excellence, Samsung is deploying specialized AI agents dedicated to very distinct tasks, like quality pre-validation or assembly line balancing. It's essentially an environment where the AI truly understands the operational context in real time and makes optimal decisions without needing constant human intervention. It's like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's happening right now.
So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought. We've just watched Samsung transform from a tiny team of 40 people exporting dried fish into a 270,000-person juggernaut. But as they reach the pinnacle of autonomous robotics and fully AI-driven factories by 2030, what exactly does that mean for the human element that built the company in the first place? Will human workers eventually be sidelined? Or will this free us up to pioneer whatever the next great technological frontier might be? It's definitely something to think about the next time you glance down at your smartphone. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep learning.